This is Demographic Explanations of Neanderthal Extinction, a reply to Curry and Meneganzen. And I apologize how I say your names, by Krist Vaesen. Okay. Yeah, and this is in Biology and Philosophy, which is, I think, the best philosophy of biology. I forget. Well, there's more than one philosophy of biology journal, but this is one of the big ones, so let's see. And this is a response paper, so kind of short, and here we go. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Lumpy. I think it's what I do is protected under fair use. I mean, I do, but I wouldn't want to test it, though. That's the thing. Yeah. So that's the thing. All right. Yeah. Again, this is what I'm saying. What I think it's legal, but are you gonna? Like, if a lawyer serves a YouTube paper saying that I'm breaking copyright, I don't have the ability to fight that. So it's like, what am I going to do? I will write them a nice note saying, look, here's my commentary, every paper. It's like, yeah. Well, exactly, Maddie. This is not... Big tech companies are not known for protecting little people like me and the rights of the people. They are known for protecting the rights of the shareholders and the copyright holders. Manny says, to be fair, I know so many scientific streams who cover this in YouTube videos covering academics and science. Oh, absolutely. I know there's a bunch of people. We're friends with some of them here. Homozygote is great guy. And of course we've got streamers in chat. I mean, Lumpy is a chemist, but I don't think he streams chemistry. But Ivan Neo streams like physics and whatnot. So, yeah. Okay, so let's see. Introduction. The demise of Neanderthals is a matter of ongoing controversy. Various explanations have been given for the extinction, and these explanations can be grouped into three categories: environmental, competitive, and demographic. According to the first, Neanderthals went extinct due to environmental, for example, climate change. Okay. Lumpy says, I do not stream chemistry. Too many legal implications in Quebec. That's exactly it. That's like, what can you actually do? Like, it's interesting. Like, once you start thinking about what actually is the limits to what you can talk about in a public forum, especially when you're giving things that could potentially be dangerous. Like, you don't want to be... Okay, so I was I do a little bit of game dev. Guy named Pirate Software. His name is Thor. He makes a game called Heartbound. It's one of these top-rated indie games. And he was looking at alternatives to Twitch. And there's something I think called Kick. Science, Homozygote, Computer, don't know Computer, Professor XP, I don't know, yeah. But okay, but this is a Pirate Software, and he streams software and game development. And he goes into this Kick to see how it is because, competitor to Twitch would be great. Mixer crapped the bed, and YouTube is not legit at this point. It's just not. It's not got the enough, features that it needs to have. Oh, a sociologist, actually, Professor EXP. All right, I'll have to take a look. But there was a guy who was streaming Breaking Bad, and in his description, they had the chemical formula for how to make meth. They had a step-by-step guide for how to make meth in the About section. And he goes in, he goes into the Discord, he messages the mods to say, hey, look, this guy is legit got the meth formula in his About section. You're going to get all sorts of law enforcement on you if you don't get this guy to stop. And so he's still in the stream, and somebody shows up in chat. Like, imagine someone in chat says, you have to change your About section or else it's going to be bad. And, the streamer is like, go screw you. And no says, no, really. And the stream goes down. And then it comes back up. And everyone's like, oh, F, whatever. What happened? The streamer's like, I don't know. Something dumb happened. And the person in chat was like, no, that was me. You have to change your About section right now. I'm one of the mods. You have to take that down. And they're like, screw you, blah, blah, blah. Stream goes down again. And the guy's like, I'm not kidding. I am taking your stream down live. just to get you to do this. If you don't do it, you will be banned. And so then they're like, oh no, okay, so the guy changes the yeah, the guy changes the about section, but then all the mods start spamming the formula in chat. So then they like have it like a repeat spam, and the guy starts deleting it. Like so, the site mod was in chat deleting it live there. And what happened was then one of the mods there like banned the site guy from it, and the guy was like, all right, so he wasn't chatting chat, but he was still there. But like it was crazy. Well, that was the thing. This is a different site from Twitch. It didn't quite have all its things together at that time, but it's just a crazy story about like, you know, things that can happen on one of these sites where you've got people interacting live, and if you're not careful, like, you could get law enforcement on your butt. Okay. Lumpy says, fun anecdote. When I signed my lease in Toronto, the building manager asked worryingly if I was going to bring work to home and run experiments in the apartment I shared. No, I would not do that. And it was firmly against the law. Yeah, it's exactly. You know, one thing, like, if I moved out of here and I got an apartment, I would want to have a stream room. A stream room, like, if imagine you told a not internet person that you needed to be able to broadcast from your apartment, what would go through their head? Oh, are you doing like the sex work? Do they want that in their place? Maybe they don't. Like, it's like, even if I'm playing video games, do they understand that you can do a full-time job playing video games? They probably don't even understand that. And even if they did, back in the day, that was a dangerous thing. You could get swatted here, like, for playing video games. That was kind of common. So yeah. Yeah, so best outcome is that the site's admin, yeah, you get banned, shuts you down. Worse is you end up in a rando US prison for many years. Like, exactly. You could go to jail for that sort of stuff. Okay. Anywho, enough with the, well, actually, we can keep talking about Meta and Twitch, but this is just the sort of thing that's going on. Your state had a full-on SWAT situation where they killed somebody? Wow. Meanwhile, Neanderthals around the corner. I'm not even kidding. Like, the street, like, the end of the block is right over there. The next street over got blocked off one day, and like, all, like, it was just blocked off. At the other end of that block, which I'm like just pointing because it's literally the other end of the block right over there, someone they swatted. I don't know if they swatted or it was a false alarm or something. I think it was a swatting where they said a guy was holding his girlfriend at gunpoint. And believe me, we had choppers. We had people in full riot gear with what's it called, the big shields and like the guns behind it. So like, yeah, it was like, it happened right there down the block basically for me. Yeah. Meanwhile, Neanderthals. I'm just going to restart because we're talking about this. Yeah, so this is in Biology and Philosophy, Demographic Explanations of Neanderthal Extinction, a reply to Curry and Vaesen by Krist, Vaesen. Okay. The demise of Neanderthals is a matter of ongoing controversy. Various explanations have been given for the extinction, and these explanations can be grouped according to three categories: environmental, competitive, and demographic. According to the first, Neanderthals went extinct due to environmental, for example, climate change. On competitive accounts, Neanderthals disappeared because they were inferior cognitively, socially, technologically to anatomically modern humans. That's AMH. Never heard that before. In competing for the same resources. Finally, more recent demographic explanations emphasize the role played by demographic factors, including migration, the disconnectedness of Neanderthal subpopulations, and fertility. Okay, so this is interesting. They're saying maybe they just got screwed because they moved around in ways that meant that they got too spread out. And it was just some bad luck of spreading out. I guess that's what it means. Okay. In a recent paper, Curry and Meneganzen, so I'll be C&M, critically engaged with the later three studies. They object to the fact that these studies, in contrast to how they implicitly present things, do not offer standalone demographic explanations. In fact, C&M contend that extinction events in general can never be accounted for in demographic terms alone. Their basic argument for this is that demography cannot be separated from environmental and competitive factors. Although some of Curry and Meneganzen's charges may be correct, I argue that not all are, and in particular, Vaesen et al.'s demographic account remains unscathed. Okay. Lumpy says, when I started streaming and coworkers were asking questions, I play games and people see my stream and we chat and talk together. They are in the same room with you? No, it's like YouTube but live. You do videos on YouTube? No, Twitch. Twitch, you have a pinched nerve? Yes, like, as many people that are on Twitch or understand that YouTube live, it's really a very small percentage of, like, the general population that understands what anything here is. Maddie says, anatomically, modern humans are just that, modern humans that started about 200,000 years ago. AMH is the acronym. Yeah, I just learned something. I did not know about that acronym is how they're referred to. Yeah. I try to explain what I do sometimes to people. Most people just sort of like, they nod and smile nicely about this. The philosophers, I get different reactions because you shouldn't be doing what I'm doing in general. You may actually see like Aris or other people saying like this is weird because it kind of is, but yeah. What do you mean what, Maddie? Yeah, explain the what. But other than that, Discernment says, do I think aging should be cured and reversed? No. I mean, what do you mean cured? Like just getting older? We're gonna just keep getting older and older. And reversed, I mean, I don't know what that means actually. Like go back to being a baby? I don't want to be a baby. That was no fun being a baby. I don't want to have to poop myself. Do I want to be in like good shape for a long time and like good looking? Yeah, I'd like to stay like, I'd like to keep my brain, you want the vampire thing, Discernment. Yeah, you want the vampire. You want to be young, good looking, and rich, and old and smart, and like be able to like, you want the vampire thing. That would be cool. I don't know how that'll work out with more and more people, but of course, like, do I want to be able to get older and like be decrepit? No. Decrepit's no fun. But yeah, I want to have like a good life. Yeah, that one scene in Superman when Dennis Hopper turned back into slime. Yeah. Why do they find it weird? Maddie, philosophy is very hard. No one just reads and reacts to stuff like I do. Like, it's very unusual. And so it's, one reaction I got from a guy I know, he says, you shouldn't be able to do that. So I had to qualify, like, I didn't say I was doing it well. I'm just doing it. He accepted that, but he still thought it was weird. But like most people do not live read philosophy like I do. It's just that's Maddie, give it read it, you go try. It's not so easy. Thank you for the drink. Why not engage? No. The idea, Maddie, is not that engaging is not the bad idea. No, and you're not distracting. Like, I like talking. The philosophical discourse is a good thing. That's basically the point, is to have more engagement with philosophy. The idea that I'm reading and reacting in a competent way live, this is another reason why it doesn't happen. Other people don't do this, is because it would be professionally damaging for some people to like say something silly on stream. I'm not an academic. I can say dumb things and get away with it. Other people can't do that. Like if they say something stupid and it gets clipped and then like they have to apologize about that, that's a problem for them. But like I don't have that problem. But like that's kind of what it is. Yeah. Lumpy says, my best at work Twitch related moment. I gotta go home. I am voice acting for LGBTQIA video game tonight that silenced the whole office. There, exactly. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, that's actually not even something that's even all that out of like the ordinary here. It's like, hey, we need, like, you have a microphone set up. Would you give me a few words or whatever? It's like, yeah, of course. It's like, yeah, sure. But yeah. Okay. But this is the thing. It's like reading philosophy live. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that now. All right, demography as not separable from competition and environment. C&M start out by outlining the preferred account of explanation, one which I will also adopt throughout, namely a difference-making account. Hey, Nintendo Pharmacom, what's up? Welcome in. That seems like a sad state for philosophy or academia in general, that people are afraid to riff in public. It's an academic problem. The jobs in academia are very tough to hold on to. And I know you will see, if you watch enough of Aristotle's stream, he will, like, you know, mention things like this, that he has to be careful. And there's a reason why he doesn't use his like real name. Like, you can find my name out, like it's in the about below the stream. He does not do that because he does not want... He wants to, I'm sure you could figure it out if you're there enough, but he needs to limit his exposure because it's hard enough to keep jobs in philosophy. So no, it's a bit of academia. For philosophy in general, it's different, like, but there's also public philosophy is not really looked upon as a good thing. Like, it's not like real philosophy. You're watering it down for the public, which isn't true. It's usually trying to reformulate it in a different way, but it's not watered down a lot of times, especially not what I do. I don't think I'm watering anything down. So, I mean, but like, that's how it's looked upon. Now, am I doing the like hard technical stuff? No, not because it's hard, but because it's very difficult to like have technical to like do technical work on stream. It's just the format of doing technical work. Like, I can't read formulas out. It makes it extremely difficult to do on stream, and so that's why I don't do that for the most part. Sometimes I do, but not logic heavy accounts. So okay. According to difference-making accounts, some factor is a cause of some event on the condition that if an ideal intervention on that factor were to be made, the event would turn out differently. Okay, so yeah, if you poke it, something else happens. That's an intervention. CNM do agree that demographic factors might be different makers, but insist that they are not independently manipulable, and hence that standalone demographic explanations are impossible. They illustrate their claim by assessing the three aforementioned studies. Let us consider the study by Digiani et al. To see how their argument works. According to the model of Digiani et al., a small increase, less than 4%, in the fertility of young Neanderthal women could lead to a substantial decrease in Neanderthal population sizes up to the point where Neanderthals would disappear. So yeah, if just you lose 4% of fertility, you could lose the population. Lumpy says, honest question, many of the papers you review seem to be not so good. Is it by design or just that academic philo papers are not very good? Lumpy, you are getting my analysis. I'm an asshole. There is another reason why people don't do this, is because I'm mean about this shit. I used to be nicer, actually. I tear the shit out of things. Yeah. A lot of this stuff is good. It is good, but it's not good content for me to just say, hey, yeah, this is good. I fuck up philosophy. And that's one of the reasons why I can do this, is because I'm just looking at the arguments. And I'm just like, fuck you, your argument sucks. Now, does the argument really suck? Sometimes not so much, but like, I'm just, I tear the shit out of this stuff. So this is the thing. Okay. But there's a full, let me get to Maddie's comment first, and then I'll get back to Lumpy's. There's a more full thing to say. Maddie says, except we don't have Neanderthal mDNA, which means that Neanderthal women couldn't create viable offspring. What do you mean? Why wouldn't they? Like, they must have been able to do it. Okay, Lumpy, how many papers are published in chemistry every year? I think it's the single biggest section of academic papers is the chemistry literature. And do you think all of those are useful? Yeah, it's something like 500,000 last I checked. So yeah, you think all of them are good. Well, look, you're going to have a lot of philosophy stuff that is, you know, incremental in that area. Now, the thing is about it, it's like, from our perspective, the outsiders looking in, we're going to say, hey, look, this is not really that important to us in like these grand scheme of things, like in the terms of like, you know, we want to know big questions. People want to have like content. Like, how does this content affect me? it doesn't. But in like that area for people who are interested in that stuff, yeah, you know, like it's good stuff. But it's like, can you pick up any chemistry paper and be like, this is going to be useful? The answer is going to be no. You're going to be interested in some papers. Yeah. And that's the thing. You say each paper in chem has to bring something new. Each philosophy paper that's published brings something new. Is that new thing going to be interesting to anybody really? Only the very small subsection of people that are interested in that area. So, but like, that's the thing. From the outside perspective, it's like, I don't care about like most things. I care about some things. Okay. Oh, okay. So you're saying those with, Maddie says, those with Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA either died out wholly or they weren't able to create viable offspring. Yeah. So you're thinking it's just, the people that we don't have. Well, clearly they died out. Yeah. Yes, it's the thing, Lumpy. I'm tearing people apart, and I'm unfair in the sense that I don't understand the discussion in their area of philosophy, and so I may be giving them a worse shake than like they might deserve in that area of philosophy. Like in that area, they might be, you know, making a good point. In the grand scheme of things, I'm like, well, this sucks. It's like, yeah, it might, but like that might not be the point. Okay, yeah. So if they lost like just 4% in fertility, that would be bad for Neanderthals. In this case, a drop in fertility is a difference maker, but the cause of such a drop must be something else. That is, the ultimate cause is environmental or competitive. Yeah, they're saying it's demographic, but why would it only be that way? Google says there is 500,000 of chemistry papers each year. I think I saw that thing on Google also. So like, that's the thing. The vast majority of things published are not going to be interesting to you. They're going to be interesting to somebody. That's why they got published. Like the editors thought it was a good enough paper. So in that area, it's good. But the problem is, it's like, especially in philosophy, it's like people have their interests. So it's like if I don't read a paper that like catches the people in chat, it's like, or my interest, what am I going to do? Check out the footnote. Oh, it has. Oh, look at this. Note that this must not be so. After all, fertility might go down because of genetic mutation, which spreads in relatively small populations due to genetic drift. Yeah, it could happen. Like, you could have some sort of weird disease, like, and that does this sort of thing. So yeah, and it could be a deleterious genetic mutation, as you say, Maddie. Yep. Yeah, so the ultimate cause isn't like, so what Maddie is pointing out is that their claim that the ultimate cause is environmental or competitive is clearly false. Like, it could be. This could just be bad luck in terms of the way genetic drift happened. And for those who don't know, genetic drift is like, you know, there could just be some random changes in genetics that didn't seem to have any important thing, but then all of a sudden, when they all came together after a certain amount of time, it all sort of drifted in a certain direction. It became a problem, and it wasn't because there was any forces. It was just dumb luck, randomness that all came like into a bad place a little later on. Yeah, and so Maddie also says they can even shift hard determining on the environmental stressors. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, you can all go one way slowly just by a little bit of drift. You can think, you know, just things happen just randomly, like just a slow little thing, or there could be some sort of environmental thing, which would be a environmental stress. Okay, so positive or negative selection, yeah. So these are things that could happen. Just if you're just thinking at the like statistical level of what's going on at the to our genes, then you can have, you know, just random combinations all have the population go one way by dumb luck. Yeah, so. Okay, so you can't make the claim that everything is environmental or competitive because you could have the statistical anomaly too, which could happen in a small enough population over a period of time. Okay, and as C&M rightly point out, Digiani et al. Seem to acknowledge themselves that fertility decreases might track environmental change. Yeah, could happen. Yeah, and there's a bunch of other things, as Mike says, epigenetics. Epigenetics is stressors that send flags because, like, your body can have a little, like, protein flags, and then the protein flags, depending on what happens in your life, get triggered, and then the proteins affect those flags affect how the body actually reads the DNA. So now it's not even reading the same genes, and so there is actually Lamarckian style changes over the course of your life on how your genes actually act. And so that's kind of epigenetics. I do know some philosophy of biology. So yeah. You love a good Lamarck shout out. Wonderful. Importantly, for there to be a sustained drop in fertility, such environmental change must also be sustained or long-term. Yeah, epigenetics is Lamarck's revenge. It kind of is. Accordingly, Giovanni et al. Implicitly accept one of the explanations that their account was supposed to be an alternative to, specifically explanations in terms of long-term climate change. C&M conclude that fertility decreases are manipulable, but not without also first manipulating environmental factors. Yeah, so they're just sort of insisting that, like, it had to be something else. But again, that's kind of dogmatic. They're just insisting. Okay, Vaesen et al. Not separable, but separable. Vaesen et al.'s basic premise, one that C&M agree with, is that Neanderthals lived in small disconnected subpopulations. Such small populations are particularly subject to extinction due to inbreeding, Lie effects, and stochasticity. This would be the randomness here, because when you're a small group, random effects can, explode just because everyone, just happens. Factors which the authors define as follows. Quote, inbreeding depression refers to the reduction in fitness of individuals that arise from matings between genetic relatives, matings thus that are more likely to occur in small populations. Inbreeding, which seems to have been common in Neanderthals, might lead to a lower fitness because it increases the chances of expression of recessive deleterious traits, and because homozygotes often have a general disadvantage relative to heterozygotes. Harris and Nielsen estimate that due to inbreeding, Neanderthals had at least 40% lower fitness than modern humans on average. Lie effects refer to the effect that population density has on reproduction and thus on population growth. At lower densities, the case we are concerned with here, growth rates might drop due to growth rates might drop due to problems in mate finding and to several problems that highly cooperative species such as Neanderthals are particularly susceptible to, including low availability of helpers in cooperative hunting, defending kills from kleptoparasites, and alloparenting. Finally, stochastic annual fluctuations in births, deaths, and sex ratio are more likely to place smaller populations on trajectory towards extinction than bigger ones. Yeah, this was a hard paragraph to read. End quote. Okay, so basically what's saying is if you're in small groups, it is harder to survive than in bigger groups for people. All right, based on models drawn from conservation biology, Vaesen et al. Show that these three factors might indeed have been sufficient for Neanderthal populations to disappear, and this without competitive interactions with modern humans or sustained long-term environmental change. Yeah, so the fact that they were just spread out in smaller groups could actually just be enough to screw with the populations due to random fluctuations. And Maddie says, I'm still not sure if they know what they're talking about or not. No, it's philosophy. They're making stuff up about, structures. Because, this is theoretical, They're saying, look, if the group is small enough and they're spread out enough, maybe they're subject to random fluctuations that could screw with them. Maybe. That's what it is. But, that's fair. It's a fair troll, Maddie. But, it seems theoretically plausible that this could happen at a certain level. Now, why would this happen to begin with? I don't know. Okay, so they're using the right terms from paleoanthropology and demographics. It's just very dense. Yeah, this was a tough paragraph to read, but this is where it's a good summary paragraph. That's the thing too. This is all the hard punches they're throwing right there. So, that's why they quoted it, so they didn't have to do that again themselves. But yeah, so they're saying basically it could have been demographics. That doesn't explain how they got that way to begin with. Why would Neanderthals get themselves into this sort of weird demographic spot? But yeah. Yeah, and so why would Neanderthals have 40% lower fitness than modern humans on average? No idea. You'd have to go read this Harrison Nielsen paper, and a lot of times these are, made up on, estimates. But again, what actually caused the Neanderthals to act like this to begin with? And, granted, once they got themselves into this demographic problem, why did they stay that way? I don't know, but, questions. But they're saying that once you get yourself into these demographic problems, they are significant. Maddie says environmental changes possibly are being outcompeted by AMHs. But that's the thing. So that's the argument here. They're saying, could the demographics just happen on their own? So, or are we going back to the environmental things? I don't know. But they're arguing that this could just happen somehow. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, a pertinent distinction here is between competitive and environmental factors that have been claimed to be explanatory of the demise of Neanderthals, long-term environmental change, and an inferiority of Neanderthals in competition with AMHs. And those that have not been claimed to be so, for example, short-term demographic fluctuations, short-term environmental fluctuations, and competition with conspecifics and non-human animals. It is only the former type of explanations that Vaesen et al. Claim to offer an alternative to. While they might agree that inbreeding, Lee effects, and stochasticity in the end relate to some competitive environmental factors, there'll be inseparability, saying that the demographic shift was something happened because of something else, they can still rightfully maintain, as they do, that inbreeding, Lee effects, and stochasticity are separable from the competitive and environmental factors that have often been regarded as explanatory for the demise of Neanderthals. See, this is what happens, Matty Holmes. You're ending a sentence with a to. Yeah, it's like you're trying to explain lots of things, and you end up saying stuff making bad sentences. It happens. And it's not so easy to write good sentences. Okay, the sense in which Vaesen et al. Provide a neutral model, like I said, very hard to get everything right. The sense in which Vaesen et al. Provide a neutral model. Well, you see how hard this is? This is just published, and they screwed up right here. I've emailed people can you still fix this? Because they might still be able to fix it. But who knows? C&M I don't know, Maddie. C&M further contend that Vaesen et al. Are mistaken in presenting their model as a neutral model. A neutral model is taken to provide one privileged preferable explanation inasmuch as it represents a null hypothesis, which is 2, both demographic and neutral. They dismiss 2 based on the inseparability claim. Demographic explanations do not stand alone and always need to smuggle in environmental and competitive factors. Regarding 1, C&M submit that demographic models should not be preferred a priori, for example on grounds of simplicity, where simplicity means fewer causal factors. They point out that an explanation in terms of environment or competition alone would be just as simple, and further that given that Neanderthal extinction is generally assumed to be due to a mixture of factors, it makes no sense to present demographic accounts as an alternative to competitive or environmental ones. I mean, I know where they're going with this. It's saying, look, if you somehow end up in a smaller group, you are screwed because that smaller group is worse for you. Now, why did you end up there? And they're saying, well, you need to have an environmental or competitive factor that did that. But, that's hard to, pin down. So, okay. In response to C&M's arguments against 2, as pointed out above, Vaesen et al.'s explanation is not neutral in a general sense, but neutral vis-a-vis the selective and environmental factors that the literature has proposed to be causally responsible for Neanderthal extinction. Yeah, this is where I figured they were going. It's possible that this could have happened somehow, and it doesn't have to be the environmental or competitive factors. Okay. And regarding 1, Vaesen et al.'s model should in fact be privileged as the most simple one, not because it involves fewer causal factors, but because it involves fewer contested causal factors. Indeed, we have seen that climatic accounts have been contested, and the same goes for accounts that trade on the competitive inferiority of Neanderthals. This is completely unfair. These people just made up something and said it was not as contested. If you make up a new theory, it is not as contested because fewer people have looked at it. That's the only reason it's not contested. I bet this could be contested, but like it just seems like it's not contested because everyone was more worried about the other ones. Being the minority and saying, "Oh, we're uncontested," is I mean, why? They're not claiming it. You know, it's like this is just saying they're just claiming it. They haven't actually backed it up. They're just saying they have fewer contested causal factors. According to whom do you have fewer contested causal factors? Vaesen et al. Start from an assumption that isn't contested, also not by CNM, specifically the assumption that Neanderthals lived in small disconnected subpopulations, and examine whether features of subpopulations might be enough to drive these subpopulations to extinction. Well, this is what I was saying. Like, I'm very, very sensitive. This is what I was saying to Lumpy a little earlier ago. I'm very sensitive to arguments. Like, I'm argument theoretic. Well, why do I shoot everything down? This is what I'm saying. I shoot a lot of stuff down because I'm looking at the arguments. They might not be wrong about this. They might actually be right. But they can't actually argue that they are right about this, or they're not arguing that they're right about this. And so I'm pointing out that this argument won't hold under, like, if I push on it, they may be right that this is a mathematical result that, given the size of the population, that they're going to have genetic problems due to, you know, inbreeding or whatever. But, like, again, they have to define that the population is going to be in the size that they want. How can they know that? It'd be very difficult. Very difficult to know that mathematically the genetic mixing was so, like, the genetic inbreeding in those exact populations was a problem. Like, they don't know that. But, like, I'm shooting it down because this is a theoretically very difficult argument to make that doesn't actually make them wrong, but it's just a very difficult one. And so, who knows? It's right here at the end of this paragraph. Might be enough to drive these subpopulations to extinction. So they have to hedge right there at the end where they say might be enough. They don't know if it is, but they have to hedge. It might be enough right there. And so, but like they claim they have fewer contested causal factors up here, but then when they get down to, they actually get down to here, boom, this is, it's a bit more difficult. They can't actually get like a stronger thing. And so, Lumpy, you were asking, do all the papers I read, are they shit? No. But can I tear stuff up? Yes. Like, that's one of the things I do. Okay, and this is the end of the paper, I think. Oh, wow. Look at that. All right, note that Vaesen et al. Provide a how possibly explanation. See the might. So, yeah, see, and now they have to hedge even more. Like, this is even more hedging right here. Note that Vaesen et al. Provide a how possibly explanation. See the might in the title of their article. This implies that they are open to the possibility that, if indeed they were present, competition and sustained environmental change might have quickened the process of extinction. Such factors, for that matter, could be easily incorporated into Vaesen et al.'s model. You want to like this paper with a lot of assumptions? Let me finish this up. It's not a bad paper. Like, a lot of times I tear stuff up, but it's not that bad. It's fine. Despite their disagreement sketched above, CNM and Vaesen et al. Do seem to agree on one, perhaps the most important point. So let me conclude this short article by emphasizing it. At the end of their paper, Vaesen et al. Write that any plausible explanation of the demise also needs to incorporate demographic factors, because specifically inbreeding, allele effects, and stochasticity as key variables. C&M seem to acknowledge just as much when they state that demographic factors can and should play a role in explanation. So in what is arguably the most relevant respect, the divide between C&M and Vaesen et al. Might not be so big after all. Yeah, so as you say, they got a little wishy-washy here at the end. The people aren't that far apart by their own admission right here. Everyone is kind of on the same page. It's just that they're coming at it. They have different priorities, and so they're looking at this stuff different, and so they're sort of like emphasizing different things. Lumpy Dragon Potato says, I find it fascinating to think that prehistoric times were long enough that civilizations had time to rise and fall. Yeah. These were like basically the humans 200,000 years ago are basically no different from us. Just as smart, just as capable, just knew a whole lot less stuff. And so it's like all the dumb things that we do, all the clever things that we do, it was them too. And like all these weird things could have happened to them. So basically what's happening here in this paper is saying, look, due to the way our genetics are, if we get into too small our groups get too small, we get inbreeding, and it decreases our fertility rate, and we can die out. Can this be treated as separable from environmental or other factors? The answer is yes, because it has nothing to do with, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with an environmental or competitive. It could just be that some people decide to walk that way because they were being stupid humans and decide to, they got into a social fight. Is that competition? No, but it could have just happened because, some people decide to go that way, some people decide to go this way, and it turns out that both groups all of a sudden were just too small, and, their genetics suffered because of it, and there was inbreeding. Founder effects is I forgot the term, but founder effects and potential mutation issues. That's right. In small groups, the founders, their genetics get spread out among all the descendants, and then if there's a problem with some of the genetics from the founders, then all the descendants have a problem, and they can get wiped out because of it. Lumpy Dragon Potato says, right, statistically there must have been a few people who had figured out life, but we'll never know. Yeah. Maddie mentions genetic drift, population collapse, but hey, don't define what that size is. That's the thing. It's like, do we know exactly what it was? No, but like the idea that this could happen is a legit idea, and it seems like everyone is kind of acknowledging it. They're just sort of trying to tease apart how to talk about this and what the right way to think about it is. So everyone seems to be somewhat on the same page. Is just how do we think about this as a derivative idea due to some other factor, or is it a standalone thing we can do? So this is fine paper. Again, like Lumpy was asking, what's the great thing here? These people are emphasizing that you can look at this sort of mathematical structure of group size as independent from all the other things going on. Will it always be independent? No. Will it sometimes be independent? Yeah, because we might not be able to find any environmental or competitive thing. Again, people may just decide, oh, I'm going to go my own way, and those people are going to go their own way because, I don't like your face, and they don't like my face, and we're going to split off. And because people are dumb like that, all of a sudden you've split up a population that shouldn't have been split up, and then the two subpopulations are too small. Okay, Maddie asks, so those modern human thingies that hadn't interbred with Neanderthals in places like Europe, Asia, etc., I wonder if they got wiped out too, or were they fully subsumed with Neanderthals? Yikes, how would I know such things? Things like that are kind of like lost to history. I'm sure some peoples got wiped out, Just like some of the Neanderthals died out, I'm sure there was subpopulations of like modern humans that got wiped out. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't it happen? I don't know. It seems like it would have to be. Yeah. There could be any number of reasons, just like through attrition, whatever it is. Yeah. The Denisovans are a good example. Yeah, see, I don't know enough about the ancient peoples. Neanderthals, Denisovans. But like, yeah, people were slightly different. Some of them might be better at other things, and then they just died off because life is hard. Okay. But like I said, am I angry with this paper? No. Did I think all the arguments were great? No. Did they have a point? Sure. Like, in the end, like, yeah, they had a point. Like, it's okay. If I had my rating system up, this would get a, thumbs up for, like, decent ideas. and like reasonably well executed, but nothing fancy. Like this would be like a, you know, a mild thumbs up